And who do we have on Zoom today? Let's see. Oh, remember that? Oh, hello. We have Dermot and Gary and Francisca. Oh my goodness, wonderful. Louisa from Guatemala. Yeah, many beings, wonderful. And Doris and Hannes. Even Jamie is over there on Zoom. Marvelous. And Ludo, that's great. It was hello everybody. Wonderful. This morning, the last official hybrid live and Zoom. Well, that means the Zoom are dead and the folks in here are alive. But however you want to call it, with concepts. Unless there's some announcement of some teaching that I feel would be very good to share with the public. But this morning, the teachings or the teachings I'm sharing with you will be based on this extraordinary first chapter of the Jewel Ornament of Liberation by J. Gampopa. So some of you, if you've heard this before many times, I don't want to bore you, I don't want to put you to sleep, but sometimes hearing these profound teachings a few times is still very refreshing. I still find it very, very refreshing. So it's an extraordinary first chapter that opens up a book of what's called the Lamrim, the Path of Liberation, and it's considered in Tibet one of the most profound outflowings of a fully realized mind, and it is. It comes from such an exalted place of compassion and wisdom. So these are some of the key texts that we use year after year, and these are used all through the curriculum, and as well as for yogis and yoginis to read again and again and ripen their minds. Yeah. Hot off the press. Very good. Very good. Yeah. So there's a few principles I would like to share with you, which are just quite glorious and may help. One of them is when one enters into even before that, enters into the path of liberation, or a spiritual path, or a path to wake up, so on. One of the most natural tendencies that we all have is natural, it's normal, it's ordinary, but it's extremely difficult to break through unless you have a teacher, like a living teacher. And it's pointed out here in this text, and it's part of the tradition of Vajrayana, is the tendency to want to go to peacefulness. So when you live in a world, internal world, external world of dukkha, let's use the word here, it's modern and it actually is very appropriate. Anxiety, whether it is the light, whether it is concerns and worries and so on, but this a deep fundamental anxiety of existence. Who am I? Where am I going? What should I do? All these things. The normal default solution, and you can feel it in your own being, is go get peaceful. Just stop it all. Stop the activity. Get peaceful. Cease all the busyness. Cease all the anxiety. Cease all the apparent causes for what's ailing you. So I have a new term, which you have to work on. It's a new term. I've come up with a buzz acronym. And you have to control your LH, your HL, your HLH. Yeah, your LHH. Yeah. Your HLA. You have to control your HLA. So this is a very serious problem, is your health, your longevity, and your happiness. And the concern is health, longevity, happiness, and it's about controlling that molecule. Big molecule, small molecule. You know what I'm talking about. But these concerns of life, you keep thinking, well, I've got the cause. But it turns out the real fundamental thing is one wants to be in a state of peacefulness. So cessation, even though it might be your peacefulness, that means whenever you want to, if you're a very accomplished practitioner of meditation and you've eradicated the poisons, at least the 3 poisons, at a good level, one can enter into cessation, not always when one wants, but pretty good, and some great practitioners can, and cease all basically mental, clinging mental activity, nirodha samapatti, or into a state of cessation. But you see the word in the ancient texts, and you see it in the Theravadan tradition, is you have the word arahata for a fully purified, emotionally fully purified being. That is, they're free of the poisons. But you also notice another word that is used quite commonly in the text is the word tathagata. You see? Tathagata. And that is a Buddha. And you think, well, are they the same? Are they different? And so on. But in many traditions, even way back, you think historically way back, it's Mahayana, but actually it's earlier on, is this idea that there is a fuller awakeness. There's an extraordinary awakeness that the Buddha discovered, but his skill was in teaching different beings what was appropriate for their liberation. And if a being is struggling too much with their existential issues, then that's the first thing you need to do, is calm that down. Calm down the fires of the poisons, the fires of the afflictions in you. Do you understand? Way before you're going to consider the possibility of having the skill and means and the understanding of all beings' experience. Okay. So that is the great impediment, if you wish. Both a good thing is you want everybody to go towards discovering profound peacefulness in their being. Got it? Profound. It's what you want to do, right? It's what I want to do. Isn't that great? Absolutely profound. But it can stray into a subtle clinging of non-being. Non-being. Cool. But you're supposed to, right? Buddha's supposed to go non-being. Well, the Buddha said there's neither non-being nor being. When he was asked about self, he said, no. Is there a self? Is there no self? But if you don't clear up this experience of self and experience no real self, and at the same time having a self, the delusion is deep. Okay. So that is the issue. So there are many levels of confusion that we don't even know we have. That a skillful being of awakeness brings people through, and we all have different degrees of confusion. I'm going to go this morning through different degrees of confusion so you can hear it. And actually those different degrees of confusion, which I've just listed, are different stages of the path. Interesting. So from the basis, from the perspective of many greatly realized beings, that the issue in the way is peacefulness, but to full awakening. But it's not understanding, not having confidence, understanding, and seeing that there must be a seed. Just as you, when you go to plant a tree or you go to plant a vegetable or something, there must be a seed. And that seed that is pervasive for all sentient beings, because all sentient beings can become liberated. Yeah? Every single being can become liberated. It's a question of when. Some very soon, some very, very far away. What is that seed? That seed has been around for a long time. Not just the philosophy, but the realization there's a seed. And that seed is called Buddha mind, awake mind, Buddha nature, and so on. Tathagata Garbha. So the Buddha was called the Tathagata, the fully gone one, the womb of thusness. You know? What is that? That is inherent in every single sentient being as their mind's nature. Okay. Is it peaceful? Yes, but can it be anything? Yes, it is whatever is happening. So even though Buddha nature, the seed, everybody has it, is non-causal. It doesn't get born. It doesn't happen when you get born. It doesn't disappear when you die. It couldn't be. If you just look at your mind, you'll see. If you can maintain awareness of clarity, lucid, compassion awareness, you'll see that no matter what's happening, it never goes. States go. So this seed, the one metaphor, is the seed is like this. And it's very straightforward. And there's whole schools of Dharma that are based on this. If you have a seed and you don't have the following conditions, no matter what you do, it just doesn't turn into a plant. All right? It doesn't sprout. It doesn't sprout and doesn't grow. What are the conditions that we need for seeds? Let's list some major conditions that must be there for all seeds.
Good soil.
Good soil. So good nutrient. Yeah?
Water.
Okay, that's one.
Water.
Water. So if you have good soil but you don't have water, what happens? Nada. Yeah. Okay. What else? Warmth. Some plants must have just the right amount of warmth. Some plants can grow when it's cooler. Some plants only germinate. Some seeds only germinate with more warmth. Okay, the right amount of warmth. What else? Light. Yeah, fertilizer is soil. Yeah. Light. So we have four major conditions by which the right causes and conditions come along for the seed to become germinated and to grow into a plant. Do you understand? Otherwise, it remains as a seed in the soil. Does that sound familiar? No. So too, one has to have the notion that there's liberation. Somewhere in there must be the notion, one, of self-liberation, and even more difficult is that all beings could be liberated because every single being has the potential for liberation. Even if they're mentally deranged, even if they're physically sick, right? Even if they don't look like us, they look like a dog or a cat, that mind has the seeds of full awakeness. It needs the right causal conditions. That means one has to encounter and be willing to be in the right causal conditions. This is really straightforward. This is what's taught in this first chapter. This is the basis of Mahayana, basis of Vajrayana. Same with the various schools. Let's say the early schools of Buddhism, they had the same notion. You have to have the right conditions. Make sense? What are those right conditions in Dharma? Turns out that for full awakening, for what's called Buddhahood, Buddha mind, there are, now this is not in this text, so I'm going to give you my rendition of this. But it actually is at the heart of Vajrayana. And it's very important you understand this for when you come to the practice of Chenrezi, for the empowerment. Just like a seedling, like a coffee bean, a radish seed, a squash seed, a apple seed, one needs 4 nutritive warmth conditions to bring about Buddha nature. What are they? Well, number one, refuge in the Buddha, historic Buddha, that is, confidence that there was an awakened being and they gave rise to extraordinary teachings. They did actually awaken. For some, no, it never happened. That's just a myth, right? Story? Myth? Somebody way back there made it up. Yeah, doesn't happen. But beings don't awaken. So that's number one. Refuge not in a historic figure, but a recognition that there has been an extraordinary awakening. Number two, Dhamma, that being gave rise over 40 years to liberative teachings that actually have liberated so many people. Confidence in that. Confidence in well, whatever. There's the suttas and the sutras, texts and teachings that are given orally. Remember, the teachings were given orally for a very long time, and are still given orally. Yeah. Dhamma or Dharma, teachings of liberation. And then number three. This is we're going to put this under the category of number one, or A, of four. This is the soil. This is the, if you want, the nutritive soil category. The community of beings who've actually experienced the transcendent and have the capacity through training to teach at the level that they have realized. That's all. To whatever degree they've realized, they've experienced, they actually have the training to be able to guide beings in that. That's extraordinary, isn't it? That's called a community, or that's called sangha. Yeah, of beings called noble beings that actually have both training and direct experience through practice. So if those conditions aren't there, that is, if you don't encounter that enough, then the mind won't ripen. The mind won't actually get to work. Yeah, just won't. Next, one has to encounter a living being that sets an example for you of all the qualities that are important for liberation. That means a living being, as opposed to something that's imagined. Maybe you imagine beings in India somewhere, or Burma somewhere, or Tibet, or you imagine stuff in a book, or you read stories about enlightened beings. Oh, okay. But to actually encounter a physical manifestation that can skillfully guide beings, like in every, whether it's a sports coach, whether it's a voice coach, whether it's a music teacher, whether it's a school teacher, whether it's in sciences, arts, doesn't matter. The most direct way is to see, feel, contact the way it's done. Yeah. A wonderful experience in New Zealand once, out at a golf range, is a fellow showed up who turned out to be one of the top golfers in the world, went back 30 years ago. And my dear friend David said, you got to come, let's just stand behind him and watch him practice. He was going to play golf and he was just practicing. This is a very famous British golfer. And David said, just watch, just feel what this is like. And he was in his 70s or 80s. And it was just so beautiful to watch every swing. This effortless quality. Just feel what that's like. Just feel what that's like. You know? Just feel what that's like. I got a lot out of that. Just feeling what that's like. Yeah. Every field is like that. It's much faster to encounter a human being that has all of the experience to save you years of wandering around, right? Like someone saying, I'm going to become an opera singer, but I'm not going to ever have an opera coach. I can do it off YouTube. What would you say to that, Michael? Yeah, he goes, yeah. That would make a lot of sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. You get the idea? A living being. Okay. Then we come to the, which is very mysterious for beings, the yidam. And the yidam is not a Jungian principle, it's not a psychological principle. A yidam is the luminous manifestation of awakeness that comes to beings, appears, enters beings' hearts and minds, appears, guides, teaches, for the benefit of beings at a certain level, at a certain level of realization. Bodhisattvas, the yidam. That's what we're going to be meditating on starting on Friday evening, introduced to a most amazing yidam. And then we have dakinis. Dakinis are another source of refuge, and dakinis, whether we see them or not, dakinis can remove obstacles, huge obstacles, because we all have obstacles in our lives. Even great male and female practitioners, incredible male and female practitioners, and have incredible obstacles in their lives and in their realization, and need some help. So dakinis. So that's number 2. That would be like the warmth, sufficient warmth. And then we have the radiance. We have the radiance of Buddha mind. So cessation lacks radiance. Cessation is like, let me give you an example. Let's say somehow you went into a rocket ship, went way out into space. And here you are now floating in space and go, space, not space down here, which is like, oh, up there must be a lot of space. But imagine if you're in a rocket ship and all of a sudden you're hurled out into space and now you're in orbit around Earth, or you're heading to the moon or Mars, and you look out and you go, oh my God, it is truly vast. And that's where you finish. You sit there and you go, it's truly vast. Game over. What would happen though if you turned your mind and say, so what is it about space? What are the properties of space? What are the qualities of space? What does space actually do for beings? What does the contemplation of space do? What is this space? That's a whole different thing. So then we turn our minds to what are the qualities of spaciousness? Yeah? And we discover something that's extraordinary. We discover that spaciousness is not empty, not just empty of the 5 poisons. It's not just empty, 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 and peaceful. But we find out that spaciousness is full of extraordinary qualities. Right? So in this sense, you can tell the metaphor or the analogy I make. Emptiness is full of light. Emptiness is full of qualities of Buddha nature. Okay? This is the 3rd level of refuge. These are called the Buddha bodies. And they're rarely encountered until one gets to a certain degree of realization. So you're going to go, yeah, later I've read about that stuff, but I don't need to focus on that. Actually, you do. For Buddhahood, you have to start to take the Buddha bodies seriously and work with what you can with them, because they ripen you. You get the idea? It's causal. Buddha nature, Buddha mind, awake mind is not causal. It's pervasive. But for causal beings, we require causality to approach that. Did you follow? That's all. In the same way that we require causal conditions to approach the eradication or the dissolving of the 5 poisons and the increase of generosity, metta, and clarity, and wisdom, or jnana. Does this make sense? Yeah, same way. So if you only know of and your desire is to reach a state of perfect peace for you, and you don't encounter a being or teachings that mesh with you, that say, hey, by the way, that's one thing that you could do, but in that cessation, in that peace, is like a glowing, magnificent sun that you will find for the benefit of not just you, but the benefit of every sentient being. These are called the Buddha bodies. Called the Buddha bodies. And they are the nature of the Guru, the Yidam, and the Dakini. They're also the nature of the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. But they're a bit more hidden away and difficult to access by beginning, even middle practitioners. So you have to have faith, you have to have confidence that because Gampopa discovered them, he encountered them, he became a master of those, you go, yeah, Milarepa did, Marpa did, Naropa did, Talopa did, Atisha did, right? Tsongkhapa did. All the Sakya masters did. And so on and so forth. They all did. And they went, yeah, the Buddha bodies is what brings, it's like the warmth of the sun or the radiance of the sun to bring about the emergence, if you wish, of Buddha nature. And then there's one more key element in the germination and the growth of the tree. Suchness, totality. Without totality, without suchness, without isness the way all experience is, that seedling would simply not emerge into a tree, a bush, or anything else. It would shrivel up. So these four key ingredients of the germination of a seed, I'm taking the analogy that was used in ancient India and ancient Tibet a little further for modern times. Those three factors really are those four factors in a seedling becoming a tree or a bush is the four refuges. We need four refuges to bring about a Buddha nature. Buddha nature is already there, but it's well hidden through a lot of confusion. Okay. So Gampopa says in the first line, chapter 1, we need to attain unsurpassable enlightenment by freeing ourselves from the confused state of samsara. So the Buddha first taught the problem as clinging, as thirst, as tanha. That's the origin. But from the point of view of Gampopa, and also greatly realized masters, that is the problem. But actually there's another level that's even deeper in the awakening mind, and that is the confusion about experience, just confused, utterly bewildered, including those that become attached to cessation. I've encountered it, by the way, so I'm not making this up. I've encountered this. I've had people who just want to meditate on cessation. They're very good meditators, but they will not practice compassion. No way. Don't need to do it, don't want to do it. I don't want all that complicated stuff. It's way too complex. Why would I bother when I can meditate and enter into an extraordinarily peaceful state where everything just ceases? Why would I? What are you doing? Why would you be so busy? In the words of one teacher who I happened to be around for a while they were in retreat, I don't get this stuff. I just don't get this stuff. I don't get it. Why would you ever bother meditating on Medicine Buddha or Vajrayogini and doing all this generation completion stage when I can just let the mind come to a full rest and stop and there's no poisons, there's no clinging. It's glory. Not even a me. And I can do it for long periods of time. Getting better at it, actually. It's okay. Okay. I always say, but why don't you like this so much? Anyways, about 3 months later, when they were in retreat and they had received these empowerments and so on from Namgyal Rinpoche, they came to me in my office at Dharma Center of Canada and said, I'm beginning to see why. I love this. That's great transition. Wonderful transition. So, I recommend you understand the resistance to stretching the muscles into the Buddha bodies, stretching the muscles into infinite compassion for all sentient beings. What comes out of the freedom when the poisons subside, when the clinging subsides, in there is a radiance of understanding of all experience, I recommend it. But you're not going to want to do it. You're not going to want to explore the appearance of a different being than you. Why do I need to change when I have me? I want to deal with me. I don't want to deal with being Chenrezig. I don't want to deal with being in a female form or a male form and putting all this stuff. I don't want to deal with it. And by the way, why do I want to change my speech into Buddha speech, into enlightened speech, when my speech should be just right as it is? Why do I need to purify my speech? Why don't I get rid of my speech? You know that? There's a tradition among some practitioners, which is when they discover emptiness, they realize that, well, there's no reason to speak anymore. All of it's partial. All of it's confabulation. It's all conceptual. It's all naming. Naming's boring, and naming, by the way, was in the way. So now that I've gotten rid of naming, both internally and externally, who would use speech anymore? May as well just shut up and say nothing. Lama, what is the enlightened mind? Lama, can you teach the enlightened the path of enlightenment? It's conceptual, right? Path of enlightenment is conceptual, so you wouldn't teach it. Interesting, isn't it? There are practitioners that have vowed never to speak again. It's all partial. It's all conceptual. But what would happen if you discovered that all sound, that now you can make sounds, instead of just being conceptual, they have the invisible radiance of liberating beings? Not just wholesome speech, but actually liberation speech. Liberation mind, liberation speech, liberation body. The three Buddha bodies. Okay. Getting the hang of it? Yeah. The resistance is enormous, even among many Buddhist practitioners, even so-called Vajrayana practitioners. I don't want to do all this because it feels like too much work. Doesn't it? Have you felt that? A lot of work. Visualize this, and they've got there's a piece of jewelry here, and then there's like a crown, and then you kind of look a different color. You're all white as opposed to tanned. I can just see it, right? I like my tan, but I don't want to put on, white. You're ruining my tan. I can just imagine it, right? A whole bunch of people say, "You're ruining my tan." Was this like sunscreen or something? Yeah. Or I always feel kind of green, but now I got to turn red. You think I'm joking? I've heard this. I've been meditating for years, red. Why do I want to be white now? Or I've been practicing being green for a long time. Now white Tara? Man, it's hard work. I've heard all this stuff. It's like, I gotta be kidding. It's just bewildering. I'm not even through the first page here. So the fundamental, if you want, I'm going to call it a disagreement. It's a disagreement from realization. The fundamental disagreement is what constitutes realization. That's really what it is. It's not theoretical, it's experiential. How far can you go with this, or do you want to rest? And if you're resting, why is it that you don't want to engage in the activity of the universe? In the activity of, is the activity, so I'll pose a question. Is the activity in any way interfering with the awake mind? So, from my point of view, and it's actually a little bit in the text, if you spend all this time studying, contemplating, practicing, to have cessation of thoughts, which feel like they're in the way. Does that make sense? My busy mind, my stories, my endless thoughts about things, my ruminations, they're in the way. Aren't they obviously in the way? So once you actually cease them, and you can remain for hours in a thought-free, effortless mode, would you want to turn your mind to look at thoughts again, and busyness, and activity? Not on your life, I guarantee it. One of the hardest things to do now is to now stir up the thoughts, stir up the emotions, and see what the nature is. Okay, so let me give you the metaphor, or the analogy. You're in deep space. It feels like it's pervaded by empty space, right? That's the old idea of space, outer space. But you know what some people discovered? Is that empty space isn't empty. It's absolutely seething with particles, subatomic particles. And they come in and out of existence all the time. That empty space is nothing of the sort. It only appears to us sentient beings, us scientists, us human beings, to be empty. But what is it full of? It's full of light. It's full of seething energy and particles. It's nothing empty at all. And it's pretty amazing. How about black holes? They're pretty empty too, aren't they? Black holes are really empty. Why would you ever study a black hole? It's just like nothing. But it turns out the black holes aren't really black. And they're not really black holes. They're pretty alive and doing things. And they have a lot to do with the entire dance of the physical universe. Which wait till black holes are put into astrology. You know, they don't, not in astrology. You know, we have Jupiter and we have Saturn, Mars, Sun, Moon in astrology. But wait till they bring in black holes. Fantastic. So so I have another note to myself here to say to people, listen to the voice that says, no, I can't do this. This is a very important voice, the voice of doubt. This voice is actually the defining hallmark of the different Buddha families. The Gampopa here, from tradition, talks about the different Buddha families. The first family are beings that are so far gone that what they like to do is engage in unvirtuous behavior. Enlightenment and awakening is so far off their radar. You know what I mean by that? So far off their radar that it's going to be a very long time, even if they walked over a Buddha, fell over a Buddha, tripped over a Buddha, they're simply going to be, excuse me, get out of my way. Yeah? Yeah. So that's a difficult creature to deal with. But now for folks like us, okay, that are of the Mahayana family. People that go, yeah, wouldn't it be great if all beings were liberated? Wouldn't it be nice if everyone was free? Wouldn't it be wonderful if I was free? What you have to hear is the doubt, the pervasive doubt. Nah, this isn't possible. I can't do it. Only special beings who are endowed with perhaps special qualities can do this. You see? So that doubt. So he says, Gampopa says here, and he names the doubt right away. But is it possible, here it is, you hear this in your own voices? But is it possible for inferior persons, now here it's not inferior persons, not in North America, it's not inferior person, and not in Europe. Is it possible that a superior person like myself, highly educated, well-endowed, godlike being, healthcare, every opportunity to be wealthy, have super yachts and fly around, have a plane. No, I don't mean a plane, right? A fleet of excellent jets. I say Gulfstreams, not even Lear jet, a Gulfstream, well outfitted, well appointed Gulfstream. But a being like myself that is entitled to everything, why? I know I wouldn't have that. But you see, it used to be, why, not you of course, why would an inferior being like myself ever be able to attain this exalted state or attainment of liberation? Why would we, even if we made effort, it wouldn't happen? Ever hear that in the entitled beings? Yes. So he says, why wouldn't we attain enlightenment if we made the effort? That doesn't do you any good, does it? It doesn't really work. So you see, he's pointing to the issue too. That it's the doubt. It's the doubt. It's the doubt. You have to, generally speaking, you have to encounter a being that removes the doubt by having the example. That's it. It's really straightforward. We just don't have a lot of them in the society. I've had people say, well, yeah, really to me, said, after encountering somebody like the Dalai Lama, I said, oh, isn't that really encourage you to want to practice and study Dharma? No, does not. Why not? He's special. There's no way I could ever do that. He's special. There's no way I could ever study voice. That's just something special, right? Or there's no way I could ever do that or this or special. Special. So you have to hear that in yourself. No way. But the whole point, from this point of view of Mahayana Vajrayana, is that one's mind is already awake. It's right there. From the viewpoint of a being of realization, of pretty good realization, that's what they experience in another being. And it bewilders them. It's like, not really bewildered, but it's like confusing. Wait a minute. You mean you can't see this? When in fact, it's pretty obvious that every sentient being that you encounter, their mind is awake, but their behavior isn't. That's okay. Just because there's clouds today, pretty cloudless day, but just because there's clouds today doesn't mean the sun isn't shining. What a silly notion. Isn't that something? What a silly notion. Just because there's cloud cover, the sun's gone. Or just because there's cloud cover, there's never was a sun. That's nuts. And yet that's how we feel. Right? So therefore we try to move around the clouds a bit. And we move around the clouds, and we move around the clouds hoping for a good result, instead of cutting through the clouds. Now, anybody who lives in Vancouver has an advantage over other people. They do. They have an amazing advantage. Only in Vancouver. There's a few other places in the world. Maybe. Not even Zurich, no. Certainly not Bali. But if you've ever gone through a 4-month, well, North Vancouver is perfect. North Vancouver is the ideal place to become a liberated. Yeah, okay. 4 months of cloud cover and rain is all you need to have breakthrough. And it's basically utterly hopeless that spring or summer will ever come again after 4 months or 3 months of drizzle, right? Drizzle, because we don't really get rain here on the West Coast. We get drizzle. And not like, let's say, in Guatemala where you get rain, real rain. So you get this drizzle, this drizzle, this drizzle. But one day you think, I have to get on an airplane. I've got to go to Toronto. I've got to go to Winnipeg. I've got to go to the United States, something like that, right? Or maybe even Guatemala. And you travel to Vancouver International Airport. It's drizzling. It's drizzling. It's drizzling. And you get in the plane, and it's like an aluminum cylinder. And suddenly it takes off. And within 40 seconds, 30 seconds, if you're sitting by a window, it's what? Wow. There really is sun. And it's always been there. Okay. There's the experience of enlightenment. All the confusion goes. Yeah, this is first page. You can actually sometimes tell if you want to know something about a little bit, if there is such a thing as a Lama Mark Weber or a Lama Yongdu, if you want to know if there is such a possibility, the more notes that I've made in the pages, the more tabs, is the more I've absolutely just fallen in love with the chapter. So it means not really going to get past the first page. So we actually progress, if you wish, towards Buddha nature by the falling away of doubt based on genuine experience. It's really what it is. So if you encounter a Tibetan teacher, right, almost the first thing they'll say to you, a Tibetan teacher raised in Tibetan schools of tradition, the only thing standing in your way of liberation is faith. That's it. Faith, confidence. That's what it's all about. That's what the monster demon is in beings' hearts, both in the East and in the West. In the West, it's huge because of cultural history. In the East, less so. In the East, yeah, I'm not going to do it, but actually, I know there's enlightenment is absolutely possible. Here, yeah, maybe, but there's other cool things to do, and there's only one lifetime anyways, so I'll just make the best use of it and slide by. Unless you are very lucky to have parents, grandparents, those in their maybe 60s and 70s and 80s that usually don't slide by. And you might start to realize that you too are not going to slide by on the HLH spectrum attainment. You know, HLH. You know that one. This new acronym for what is important: health, longevity, and happiness. So he says, all sentient beings, including ourselves, already possess the primary cause for enlightenment, the essence of the well-gone one, the Thaygatagarbha, the womb, the envelope, if you wish, the seed of full awakening. So various examples are given. For example, as butter permeates milk, likewise, the essence of the thus gone one pervades all sentient beings. Just like there is olive oil in olives, until you squeeze it with sufficient pressure, you may never notice that there's actually oil in olives. Right? You just look at the olive and go, there's an olive. You bite into the olive and it's pretty bitter. In the same way, sesame seeds, different things, they have an oil, they have an essence that needs to get squeezed out. Yeah, with a hydraulic press. That is one of the definitions. If you look in the Sanskrit dictionary, you will see that one of the meanings of the word guru or lama is heavy. If you ever feel a heavy weight come over you, like being squeezed in a vice, and not knowing what that vice-like squeeze is like, but you know it's something a little bit heavier than light. That is the squeezing of the spiritual vice, of realignment of that which is bound. It's only one of the meanings. So what are some of the what's some of the confusion about? I'm teaching this a bit differently than I have before, because some of you've heard 2 months of the Jewel Ornament Liberation teachings, and you've heard this before, so I'm not really approaching it differently. I'm just today really to orientate you to the practice of Avalokiteshvara, a full, complete manifestation of wisdom and compassion, the unity of wisdom and compassion. I'm giving an orientation to this most profound practice, which is the same practice of all the Vajrayana yidams, or meditation deities, if you wish. So what kind of confusion? Well, appearances being solid and real drives people nuts. The belief, the understanding that the appearances, both self and other, and all experience has a solidity, has a reality, where in fact there is none whatsoever. It doesn't take too long, actually. Not too much meditation, not too much direct meditation to discover the chinks. You know the chinks, the cracking up in the solidity of appearance. Now, you're not going to believe it until you do it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. Even when beings experience emptiness, they don't believe it. It's such a fantastic thing to give a checkup, and someone has experienced emptiness, and it's a form of emptiness, has experienced emptiness, and there's not any way that they're going to recognize it. Everything but. So back to the drawing board, back to the drawing board, back drawing. One day they go, yeah, congratulations. It's really lovely. So these are points of confusion. We normally start with this very difficult but also easy place to start. Conceptually not so difficult, but experientially difficult. That the self, the personality, the self, the being, is a solid, real, lasting entity. That's a hard nut to crack. Okay, so that's where most of the teachings of Dharma start, before all appearances. I don't have this in order. I haven't been that organized to do that. I just wrote them down, and I keep extending the confusion. By the way, this list that started with 3 continues on the page all the way down. More confusions. As I say, every time I look, I go, oh yeah, okay, well, there's others. Here's a confusion. The poisons, greed, hatred, delusion, pride, and jealousy is worth engaging with, and is worth, what's the word? Upholding. That is a fundamental delusion. And today, as we had a discussion around the breakfast table about this, today you can make a lot of money. So I'm encouraging all of you. No, I'm not. You can make so much money by promoting the poisons on social media. It absolutely makes gobs and gobs of money promoting jealousy. You can just get people jealous, you can make so much money. If you can get people really angry about nonsensical things, you can make so much money. Greed, so much money. You can make a bottle like this that has 1 microdrop of a perfume, like opium or, something, right? And it's got a tiny little drop of a few essential ingredients plus synthetics in that much alcohol and carrier, and a really fancy package. And convince all kinds of people they should douse themselves in it. Fantastic. No, amazing. You can make a lot of money by selling delusion. You can make so much money by pumping up pride. It's fantastic. So, this is a new industry, like we've never seen before. So there's those that want to be engaged in the activity of the Father. It's very confused now. So imagine if you grow up in a society where you make money, you grow, you prosper by actually making money and making an industry out of the selling, the promoting of the poisons. That competition in government, competition in corporations, competition in, how about this? We all have a competition and we get awards for who has the best meditative experience today. Wouldn't that be cool? All get together in a group and we share our experiences one after the other, and they get rated, like on a kind of board. Another great confusion, really confuses people, that this experience that you're having right now, that you had yesterday, and you have now, and you'll have this afternoon, and you're going to have tomorrow, which is cultural, which is shaped by history, which is shaped by genetics and epigenetics and so on, is the way in which you experience. That this experience is the experience. Our language is a language, my understanding is the understanding. This is how it is. That level of confusion is massive. It takes a lot to wake up out of that. It's so deeply pervasive, like a trap around the legs, and so deep. It's going to take a lot of contemplative meditative study to crack that one, where the feeling is that what I experience with my 5 senses and my 6th mental sense is the way it is, and it's pretty much what every other human being has. Utter, complete confusion, delusion. Another one is the difference between suffering and no suffering. The non-recognition of suffering and the non-recognition of no suffering. Highly confused. Deeply confusing. So that leads to another one, which is not knowing why we cling and why we attach. Just not knowing that is such a level of confusion. Yeah? Being driven insane by not knowing that. Yeah? The Buddha said, and this is not polite at all, not polite. Something you wouldn't normally say, but the Buddha said, until you at least have the first stage of the path of realization, you're insane. These beings are insane. And you think, well, that's a really ugly thing to say for such a compassionate being. No, it's utterly compassionate. People are driven out of their minds chasing after objects, chasing after happy objects. It's absolutely nutty producing. You know, it's worth hundreds of trillions of dollars of income to keep people chasing after happy objects, happy making objects, and happy making ideas. And that's making people, from my point of view, I'm just speaking personally, absolutely crazy, insane. It's driving people insane, but a lot of money is being made out of it. remember the first time I came off the plane into Vancouver. This is a long time ago. Just when cell phones were coming out, maybe 2 or 3 years later, or 4 years later, after cell phones. I don't even know if I had one. I think I had my first flip-up razor. Oh yeah, I remember buying it in Italy, in Macerata, actually. I think it was my first cell phone was in Macerata. Yeah, maybe it was a Teague. We went into a little cell phone place, and I finally went, okay, I'm going to get a cell phone. It's near Ancona. And I wanted one, so of course I wanted the one that looked like a Star Trek, communicator, flip-up phone. Still have it, actually. It's somewhere in the basement, but very cool. First one, Motorola. Okay. So got off a plane. I think it was maybe a couple years after that. Got off a plane. I'm driving into downtown Vancouver. Come off the bridge, the McConkey Bridge, something like that, off the airport. And I see these billboards from, what it was, Rogers, Telus, whatever it is. And they're kids. They're like teenagers. They're like sub-teens. I don't know what the word is, Sub-teens? Pre-teens, tweens, I don't know. And they've got and they're like this. And there's a group of them. I went, wow. And immediately I went, I just saw the marketing meeting where they said, we need to make another $100 million. We need that segment. We need to turn them on to how to behave. And I think I remember the words being something like the new you, or it was promoting a lifestyle. You see? I've been in some of those marketing meetings. In previous incarnations in this life, I've actually sat in marketing meetings being asked to be a consultant of how to sell something to an entire public to gain market share and convince the public. Those are ones I didn't do consulting work on. I backed out of. How to convince an entire population that they had to buy a product and they had to shift their ideas about who they are and what they eat. I've been to those meetings. And those meetings are worth millions. Now they're worth billions. Yeah? Okay. Still on the first page. So not to know why we cling, not to know why we're thirsty, not to know why this massive amount of habitual attachment is utterly crazy making. It's nutty. It makes people go bonkers. Then the confusion about mind. Just not ever having the opportunity to study mind. If I go around a room and say, do you know what mind is? Yeah, I got a mind. Do you have a mind? I got a mind. Do you have awareness? I got awareness. What is it? Just a second. I got a book. It's a neurophysiology text. And on page 3, it defines awareness as we don't know what it is. Okay. And then you go to a cognitive psychology text. Yeah? And you go index, page 345, consciousness. We don't know what that is either. So what we do is we leave it to the neurocognitive scientists, we leave it to those experts that are doing their PhDs, those graduate postdocs, and professors to solve what is awareness, what is consciousness, brain MRI. If we have a good brain MRI, we're sure going to find out what consciousness is. We'll find the mind, With the right instrumentation, we're going to find the mind. We're going to get data. We're going to get, for instance, give an example. How many of you have ever seen your brain? I like to do this with people, even with medical people. How many of you have ever seen your brain? And you get a whole bunch of people in the room today. So, I've seen my brain. Have you seen your brain? Yeah, I've seen my brain. You say, well, how? MRI. I saw an MRI of my brain. Or a PET scan of my brain. Ever seen your heart? Yeah, I saw my heart. I saw an echocardiogram. So tell me, is that your heart? Isn't that amazing? The level of delusion? Is that your heart? No, it's a bunch of data points taken under certain conditions with certain programming. The MRI, don't want to make you worried, but the MRIs were programmed, and they had a programming fault from the very beginning. Yeah, they only caught that, I think, about 7-8 years ago, doing all these cognitive studies and basing all these conclusions based on MRI, when they discovered there was a programming error from the very beginning of data collection, and realized absolutely totally suspect, every bit of it. Yeah, oops. You know those beautiful images coming from the Webb telescope right now? Aren't those just beautiful images of the cosmos? Not only are those infrared images that don't have any color, they're completely colorized. They're staggeringly beautiful. But if you looked at an infrared image, you just go. The only person to be interested would be the scientist studying, going, wow, look at those variations of infrared spectrum. You'd be going. So today, with electron micrographs, from electron micrographs, we colorize them for people. I don't, but people colorize them. They go, everybody's going, it's boring. It's black and white. You see? Black holes? Images of black holes? There are no images of black holes. There are energy distributions that, through incredible mathematical ability, of all these data collection points for 7 or 8 years, they put them all together and they come up with these images. And I read about the person that actually invented this. She said, I have sleepless nights wondering if I made a mathematical error somewhere. Whole teams of them verify it. For 5 years, they verify. They look at their data to see if anything's wrong. She says, I still have sleepless nights. I've made a mistake somewhere. Fantastic, isn't it? Yeah. Marvelous. So, confused about mind, confused about wisdom, confused about awareness. This is crazy making. To have something that you're born with, but never take a look at it in depth. It's sort of like a 16-year-old going today, not maybe 20 years ago, going, I know all about love. I hear those pop songs. I know all about love and compassion and relationships at the age of 16 years old, because I listened to those instructions through pop songs. Yeah. Let's take a 10-minute break. I'll come back at 5 minutes to 11 Vancouver time. Not even Galiano time, but Vancouver time. Marvelous. So just a few more points, and this has to do with everything to do with the practice of Chenrezig. So the Buddhahood is the qualities inherent in innate mind, not conditioned mind, innate mind, or innate awareness. People confuse the word. This is a question that Gary has asked from Australia, but there is much confusion over awareness, and awareness, mind, consciousness. And actually, as it turns out, there are actually technical words for different, not just different meanings, but different realizations of mind, different realizations of awareness, and so on. So, when one discovers through meditation peaceful awareness, thought-free awareness, that is like a veil, like a covering over the qualities of the empty nature. So it takes effort, it takes direction, it takes pith instructions to go through the awareness that is the peaceful awareness, the peaceful consciousness, and it's a refined state of thought-free, blissful, spacious clarity. And that requires pith instructions, requires direct instructions by a human being to literally cut through, punch through, have the determination to go through that veil, if you wish, into what is called the Mahamudra, which is Buddha nature, Dzogchen, which is Buddha nature, Great Perfection, which is Buddha nature, and this is called penetrative insight. Penetrative Vipassana has a different name, special Vipassana, because it's going for removing all remaining conceptual contrivances to open the door to the luminosity aspect, the form aspect, the liberation aspect that liberates beings through the realization of essence, if you wish, essence of mind. So the path of the Bodhisattva, the path of the being that wishes for the liberation of all sentient beings, is a path of qualities, and the qualities start by mastery or very let's say excellent development of the paramita. So if you don't know the paramita, good to memorize the paramita. The stages of the Bodhisattva are the perfection of the unity of parami, generosity, ethics, energy, patience, meditative absorption, wisdom, and so on. The stages of a bodhisattva are defined as the unity of the parami and emptiness. And that brings about skill to help beings, but it also brings about the end of confusion. More and more is the end of confusion. So we have emptiness of grasping. If you want to write these down, sort of like a progression of what we're going to do, where we're going to go. We have emptiness of grasping, emptiness of thirst, discovery that there is actually a mode that's beyond any thirsting, any grasping, any hankering, any wanting. And it's like Mount Everest coming, or Mount Baker, Mount Rainier coming off your shoulders. That's how much freedom is immediately conferred. Yeah. Then there's also the emptying out. These are definitions of emptiness, and actually what happens experientially in emptiness. Is the emptying out of the five poisons into the freedom from the five poisons. And this is where beings get caught. The emptiness of the five poisons means you're going to have good qualities, but one is not necessarily gone or developing a path of good qualities, because the cessations of the five poisons gives one such a degree of personal peacefulness. Why would you ever move a muscle when there's such peace? Does it make sense? It's just natural. It's like, why get out of the bathtub when you feel relaxed? Like Tashi there. Why would I ever stop getting a belly rub after 5 or 6 hours? She's like this. Why would I bother? Right? Why would I do anything else but get a belly rub or a back rub? That's what happens to us. Just perfect massage. Bathing in mental freedom from the poisons. You see? But if one actually sees that freedom gives opportunities for not just yourself, but for other beings. Then we turn towards building up the generosity, building up the parami, vast loving kindness, great compassion, the scope of wisdom, relative and absolute wisdom. Then we turn to removing through emptiness, the remaining confusions about what is knowledge of experience. And out of that comes radiance. Out of that comes, we call liberative radiance, also known as the Sambhogakaya. Okay? So out of the undifferentiated illumination of mind, freedom mind, comes the radiance to free beings. Okay? It's called the Sambhogakaya. Yeah? And out of that also comes the possibility that one can have physical manifestation that's liberative for beings. That's called Nirmanakaya. Yeah. So, as an aid to beings, what is the greatest capacity and aid to beings? It is said in the tradition that to be able to realize the three Buddha bodies, that which is undifferentiated, the Dharmakaya, that which has no features, that which is mind essence, not your mind essence, Buddha nature, in its infinite, compassionate nature, suchness. But to bring about the awakening of beings, the talents, the activity, the scope of ripening all 6 classes of beings is a millionfold, a billionfold with the realization of the Buddha bodies. So Gampopa in his life knew that when before he went to, he was a great meditator, and before he met Milarepa, he knew that he just wasn't realizing or grasping the 3 Buddha bodies. But when he practiced and studied with Milarepa, he still didn't have the real experiences of the Buddha bodies. But shortly thereafter, practicing more, meditating more, he said, it started to dawn. You see? And it's the Buddha activities, it's the Buddha wisdom, it's the Buddha qualities that is the heart of the Vajrayana practices. So just please remember that. That's what we're working on. Yeah? It's not just the empty nature. It's all the extraordinary qualities that allow beings to be ripened really well and quickly. You see? So for this being, I just speak to you personally, for this being, I would much rather be a fully awakened being, because then I can ripen you better. The more talents I have, the more compassion, the more skill in ripening all kinds of beings, not just 2 or 3, but many different types of beings, and reaching what they need simultaneously. Isn't that extraordinary? So we have Buddha body, Buddha physical manifestation. We have Buddha speech, which is turning all speech, no matter what it is, talking about bumblebees or talking about pyrite crystals or talking about gardening, it doesn't matter. Inherent in that speech is the liberation of all sentient beings and skill. I absolutely used to just so much enjoy when Namja Rinpoche in the middle of a class would just stop and talk about rose gardening. For a half an hour, 20 minutes. Just go on about rose gardening. How you do rose gardening. I just sit there and go, man, that's just glory. What an awake mind. Doesn't matter if you're talking about rose gardening or the Four Noble Truths. That mind is waking beings up. And it's not just the skill, it's the power of an awake mind giving birth to verbal activity. It's really something. So the body liberates. I know one being who encountered a Tibetan Lama, and I said, how do you find the teaching? I don't care what the teaching is, I can't understand any of it. What a magnificent being. You see? What a magnificent being. That was mind-blowing to them. The body of that being for them was liberating. Just by seeing that, oh my goodness, what is that? And somebody else might just go by and go, oh, cool being, or nice, they got sunglasses, or, they got a beard, or got long hair, or something like that. Oh, yeah, cool. But for that being, who had never encountered that person ever before, was going, oh my gosh, look at that. You see? That liberates by the physical presence, liberates by speech, and what else? Liberates by just mind. Liberating mind, liberating mind. So this is the power of the Buddha bodies, of realization. That's about it, I think, for today. Could have a lot more. There's a lot more notes here. So, what's standing in the way for becoming fully wanting and training in full, complete Buddhahood? Only one thing. Doubt. And what is doubt? Fear. Just fear. It's not the root, but it's the manifestation. Fear. If I become free, by the way, there's no I to become free. It just isn't. It's already free. But anyways, if I become free, I'm going to lose my friends. If I become free, I'm going to lose the kinds of things that I know make me happy. Isn't that cool? I get to hear all these different dialogues. Is that the case? So in the way of freedom is fear, which is massive, appears as doubt. But normally, you only experience the doubt when you listen to the statements. But if you're busy enough, you only get the turning away from wanting liberation or pursuing liberation to something that brings about more comfort. It's perfectly understandable. Why? We just want peace. An intelligent being wants peace. I want peace. I want peace and quiet. Isn't it nice here, Galiano? Quiet, peaceful, until it's not. Have you noticed that about life? You could go, let's say, book a holiday, a $10,000 holiday to some remote island in the South Pacific, but they don't tell you that they have a particular little flea on the beach that burrows underneath your skin. And at night, at dusk, your body is covered with, but the pictures are just amazing, right? And also there's all these poisonous things in the water that when you go snorkeling, you can't touch, because then you get a cut and you've got an infection, yes? And of course, you could get sunburned, so you've got skin cancer, and you can't put on enough lotion, because you put on more lotion, you'll get skin cancer from the lotion. I mean, it's just confusing. It's just confusing. Not to mention if you eat the wrong fish and it's not cooked properly, or if it does, let's say it's a parrotfish, you might get secretaria. So paradise. Anyways, I end it there. Why you here? You could be in a wonderful place, maybe Bali, or where it's quiet and peaceful, or somewhere in the South Pacific where the waves are lapping up and covering the island. Where are you going to find freedom? In your mind. It's your mind. The only place. Only place that you've got. You have no clothes. This is not the 1960s, but you have no clothes. You have no house. You have no place. What do you have? The only thing you've got is your experience. So you're going to have to find out what that is. That's the path. You're going to have to unravel what this is. Otherwise, it's confusing. It's bewildering. It's existentially awful. It's going to be right out of a Sartre or a Kazantzakis or some more of those European plays where they got cockroaches and all kinds of stuff happening, and one day you wake up and you're a cockroach. You don't want that to happen, do you? No. Remember how scary those existential books are? Suddenly, I woke up and I was a cockroach. Who am I? But what would it be like? What would it be like to wake up as Avalokiteshvara? Wouldn't that be something? Some people have had that in these retreats. They just wake up and they go, oh my gosh, that's glorious. Or Tara, or Vajragini, right? And they're in the body of a different body, different speech, different mind, and they go, oh my goodness. That's different than cessation, than a state of complete, utter peace. That's the active light, illumination that comes out of that. Okay? That's what all this is the talents. If you go to a gym, how about this? Go to a gym, and I can lift, or I can go on one machine, and do presses or whatever it is. I forget all those machines, but anyways. And I go, hallelujah, I got it. But imagine if you actually understand through essence how to use each one of those machines and elicit wonderful muscular qualities out of each of those, doing a different thing, and then be able to actually apply it for different beings in different needs, spontaneously, effortlessly, skillfully. That's what this is about. Okay? So I teach both. I teach both for all different beings. Hinayana, Mahayana, Vajrayana. So, tonight, or tomorrow night, we turn our minds towards a giant gymnasium of muscle building. Because for me, it has the biggest in the corporate language, has the biggest bang for the buck. Why? You're going to get the most out of it, even if you go, I don't want to do any more visualization. I don't want to even say one more mantra. I don't even want to dissolve a seed syllable. Why can't I just rest my mind? I don't want to chant. I want to be peaceful. I don't want to sit. So, our resistance is enormous to flexing our muscles of compassion. We want to just be peaceful. All right. That's it. And I think because of the topic today, I'm going to ask Michael if you would lead us in Newton Dorje's most extraordinary, beyond measure, dedication aspiration that goes beyond, which is like most glorious angelic music to my ears. So.
Namo Bhagavan
Does the 10 directions 3 times. Guru Vidam 3 jewels. All infant victors, many grains of dust in the field. All you please listen and pay heed to me. From now on, the virtuous actions performed by my members of the body, speech, and mind equal space. Accumulated throughout the 3 times the stains of virtue existing from the beginning. Is dedicated to gathering expansive awakening. Having arrived at the state of knowledge of the victors with their children, may the state of knowledge facilitate us to be totally perfected. Great stages are evaded by demonstration of the wheel of knowledge and liberation. May the holders of those stages, having perfected their activities, carry happiness to the world and dharma to all migrating beings. And may yogis be satisfied with the glory of the 10 virtues. And purify all suffering of samsara and its causes. May we quickly attain the omniscience of complete Buddhahood. Depending on the force of accumulated super virtue, arising maze and connections of cause and condition, may sentient beings of 3 times the existence of samsara, having actualized the ultimate knowledge of their own awareness, perfecting all stages of primordial wisdom through the conduct of samatha or bodhisattva, abide in supreme space free of obscurations, without objectifying the meaningful benefit of others, according to the capacity of disciples, the rain of Dharma falls corresponding with their ages. Having ripened disciples in 3 Vajras, may they obtain Buddhahood, the Mass mentioned in Buddha Samantha. In this life, the life that is conditioned and permanent and empty, constituents the 5 elements are complete as the Buddha field of 5 families. Having arisen in the form of the Guru Galiano or Bardo, may all sentient beings led by those who one has positive and negative connections immediately go to the Chari abode, and ripen and liberate the whole range of disciples through many incarnations, the appearances of its own ornaments to with them. They all attain the unsurpassed ultimate results. Well, that's it. And saying goodbye to those joining us on Zoom. It's been a great delight. And not to say goodbye to those here in the room, but if there are teachings that I feel would be appropriate to share publicly, we'll try to make announcements sooner than later. Anyways, a joy to be sharing the Dharma and exploring the Dharma and unfolding the Dharma with all of you. Bye-bye. Love you all, and be well and healthy and long-lived and also awakened.